I stood behind my living room curtains, watching as my daughter's car rolled into the driveway. The trunk was stuffed, boxes piled high in the back seat. She hadn't come to visit. She'd come to move into a house that was no longer mine. My name is Patricia. Most people call me Patty, and I'm 72 years old. At this very moment, I'm sitting in my new apartment, 3 states away, about to tell you how my own daughter tried to take everything from me, and how I made sure she received exactly what she deserved. Before I continue, let me ask you something. Where are you watching from? Drop your state or country in the comments. This story is a journey, and I want to know who's coming along with me. It all began 6 months ago, on what appeared to be an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. Melissa arrived at my door without warning, which wasn't unusual. What was unusual was the thick folder tucked under her arm and the fact that her husband, Brandon, stayed in the car instead of coming inside to greet me. My daughter had always been ambitious. Even as a child, she wanted the biggest slice of cake, the starring role in school plays, the most expensive prom dress. I'd taught her to aim high, but somewhere along the way, she started reaching into other people's pockets. "Mom, we need to talk about your future," she said, sitting down on my sofa without asking. That same sofa where I used to rock her to sleep as a baby, the same living room where my late husband and I had celebrated every Christmas for 43 years after buying this house back in 1982. "My future feels pretty settled," I replied, pouring her chamomile tea, the kind she always loved. "I'm healthy, happy, and exactly where I want to be." She didn't touch the tea. Instead, she opened the folder and laid papers across my coffee table like a dealer, spreading cards, business proposals, loan applications, property evaluation. "You're too old-fashioned to understand what I'm building," Melissa said without meeting my eyes. "Brandon and I have a chance to start a boutique consulting firm. But we need real capital, not some tiny loan with impossible conditions." I scanned the documents. At the bottom of one page, I saw my address along with my home's estimated value, $875,000. The neighborhood had grown expensive over the years. What Robert and I bought for $89,000 in 1982 had turned into a small fortune, simply because I'd cared for it lovingly for more than 4 decades. "What exactly are you suggesting?" I asked, though my stomach already knew. "Sell the house, Mom. You don't need all this space," she said smoothly. "There are wonderful senior communities, people your age, activities, no maintenance worries." She finally looked at me then, smiling so sweetly it could have fooled anyone who didn't know her. "You could live comfortably on part of the money, and the rest would help your daughter secure her future. Isn't that what mothers do?" That was the moment I should have asked her to leave, but instead I wanted to see how far she'd go. "I'll think about it," I said. Her face lit up as if I'd already agreed. "Really, Mom? I knew you'd understand once you heard me out." She gathered her papers quickly, like I might change my mind. "Take a week to process everything. We can meet with a real estate agent next Friday. I already have someone in mind. She's excellent at getting top dollar for homes like yours." Of course she did. This wasn't sudden. It was a plan carefully prepared, just waiting for my approval. After she left, I sat alone in my kitchen for an hour, staring at the periwinkle blue walls my husband had painted because he knew how much I loved that color. Robert had been gone for 8 years, and I missed him every single day. But in that moment, I was grateful he wasn't there to see what our daughter had become. Over the next few days, Melissa called constantly. "Just checking in. Have you thought more about our talk, Mom?" She sent links to senior living facilities, each one more depressing than the last. Shared rooms, scheduled meals, bingo and chair yoga, as if turning 70 meant shutting your brain off. I'm 72, not dead. I still drive. I still garden. I volunteer at the library every Wednesday. I have friends, hobbies, a life. But to Melissa, I was just an obstacle standing between her and nearly $1 million. On Thursday, she returned, this time with Brandon. He wandered through my home like it was inventory, commenting on the hardwood floors, the remodeled kitchen, the backyard. "Prime real estate," he said to Melissa, not to me. "We might even get more than the estimate if we time it right. Spring market's coming." They spoke about my house, my life, as if I wasn't standing right there. "I brought brochures," Melissa said, handing me glossy pamphlets for places called Sunset Gardens and Golden Years Manor. Names designed to make aging sound peaceful instead of what it really is, living. I took them. I smiled. I played the role of the confused old woman who needed guidance. All the while I watched them carefully. That night, sleep wouldn't come. I kept replaying her words, your future, like it was hers to decide. Around 2 a.m. I got out of bed and did something I'm not proud of, something that changed everything. Melissa had left her phone on my counter earlier while using the bathroom. When she returned, she rushed out and forgot it. What I hadn't mentioned was that months earlier, I'd seen her passcode while she showed me vacation photos. 4 numbers. 0815, her birthday. I also knew her email password. She once asked me to print something, and I watched her type it. I know privacy matters even between a mother and daughter, but something deep inside told me that if I didn't look, I'd regret it forever. It took me 20 minutes to access her email on my laptop. I'm not tech savvy, but I managed. When I finally got in, the first emails were harmless. Then I searched my name. My heart sank. Mom agreed. Melissa had written to Brandon just hours after our first talk. She said she'd think about it, but that's basically a yes. She's too polite to refuse. Give her a week to feel like it was her idea. Then we move forward. Another email to a real estate attorney named Richard Chen. We'll need the sale to move quickly when she signs. My mother overthinks things. I don't want her backing out. Can we make the paperwork final once she initials? My hands were shaking, but I kept reading. Then I found the email that froze my blood. It was forwarded from Brandon, sent 2 weeks before Melissa ever spoke to me. Subject: Owood Senior Care Facility. Shared room availability, dear Mr. and Mrs. Peterson, it read. Thank you for your inquiry regarding long-term care for your mother. We currently have shared room availability at $3,200 per month. Private accommodations begin at $6,800. But as you mentioned, budget is a concern. Budget. They plan to sell my $875,000 home and dump me in the cheapest facility possible, keeping the rest. But it got worse. Melissa had forwarded herself a text thread between her and Brandon from 3 days earlier. What if she won't sell? Then we moved to Plan B. We could get power of attorney if we prove she's mentally unfit. She forgot my birthday and mixed up her meds once. Is that enough? It's a start. Worst case, we wait. She's 72. How long can she really hold onto that house? I read that message 17 times, hoping I'd misunderstood. I hadn't. My daughter wasn't just after my house. She wanted my independence, my dignity, my entire life. And she was willing to label me incompetent to do it. I shut the laptop. I didn't cry. I got angry. The very next morning, I called a lawyer, not the family attorney who handled Robert's will. Melissa knew him. I found someone new. Her name was Susan Bartlett, an expert in estate planning and elder law. I need to make changes to my will, I told her, and I need to do it quietly. We met later that afternoon at her office, a small, modest suite in a downtown building. Susan looked to be around 50, with gentle eyes and a no-nonsense presence. I handed her the printed emails. As she read, I saw her expression tighten. Mrs. Peterson, I'm truly sorry you're dealing with this, she said, sliding the papers back toward me. Sadly, this kind of situation isn't rare. Financial exploitation of parents is becoming more common. I'm not elderly, I snapped. I'm 72 and fully capable, I can tell, she said with a small smile. So let's make sure your daughter understands that too. What do you want to do? I explained my plan. As I spoke, her smile slowly widened. For the next 2 weeks, I played my role perfectly. When Melissa called, I sounded unsure, scattered, asking the same questions again and again. Now remind me which facility had the garden. I'd ask, even though she'd already told me 3 times. I wanted her comfortable, confident. Too confident. I met her real estate agent friend, Amanda, a sharply dressed woman who spoke too quickly and smiled far too much. I asked basic questions about selling, nodding politely as she went on about market trends and closing costs. Melissa said, you're downsizing. Amanda said, her voice dripping with condescension. That's such a smart decision. Homes like this take so much upkeep. And at my age, I still know how to operate a lawnmower, I cut in. But yes, I added sweetly, Melissa thinks it's time. I let them believe they were winning. Behind the scenes, I was very busy. I met with Susan 2 more times. I contacted the charity Robert and I had loved most, the Riverside Women's Shelter, where we'd volunteered together for 15 years. I made calls, I signed documents, I opened new accounts, and I began packing. Not everything, only what mattered. Robert's wedding ring, Our photo albums, my mother's china, the quilt my grandmother had sewn by hand. I packed them carefully and moved them into a storage unit across town, paying a full year in advance with cash. Melissa noticed nothing. She was too busy planning her future, sending me links to office spaces she and Brandon wanted. Once the house sells, we can afford the perfect spot, she said excitedly during one visit. Downtown. Glass walls, modern furniture. Nothing old-fashioned. That word again, old-fashioned, as if it were an insult. As if honesty, integrity, and respect were outdated ideas that no longer mattered. That sounds wonderful, dear, I said, pouring tea she wouldn't drink. I knew you'd come around, Mom, she said, patting my hand like I was a child. You're doing the right thing. Dad would be proud you're helping family. Robert would have been horrified. But I didn't say that. I just smiled and counted the days. The signing was set for Friday. Amanda had prepared the paperwork, and Melissa had organized everything so efficiently it made my skin crawl. We were scheduled to meet at the real estate office at 10 in the morning. I arrived 15 minutes early, wearing the same floral dress I'd worn to Robert's funeral. Melissa probably assumed it was sentimentality. In truth, it was a reminder of what was at stake, of the life Robert and I built together. Melissa walked in right on time, Brandon following a step behind as usual. Amanda was already there. Papers spread neatly across the table, colorful tabs marking where I was meant to sign. Mom, you look nice, Melissa said, kissing my cheek. The affection felt like sandpaper. Ready for this new chapter? I've been thinking a lot about chapters lately, I replied. About beginnings and endings. That's the spirit, Amanda said quickly, sliding the first document toward me. Just initial here and here, then sign at the bottom. I picked up the pen, held it above the paper, watched Melissa lean forward, barely breathing. Then I set the pen down. I can't sign this, I said calmly. The room went silent. Melissa's smile froze in place. What do you mean you can't sign? Mom, we've discussed this 100 times. You agreed. I said I'd think about it, I replied. I did. And I've decided. I stood, smoothing my dress. I'm not selling my house. Not to fund your business. Not now. Not ever. Melissa's face flushed red. Are you serious? After everything we planned? I've already paid deposits on office space. That sounds like poor financial planning, I said evenly. Brandon finally spoke. Mrs. Peterson, be reasonable. You don't need that big house. You're alone. Melissa's just trying to help me into a shared room at Oakwood for $3,200 a month, while you keep the rest. I asked quietly. The color drained from their faces. How did you, Melissa started? How did I know about the emails, the texts, the conversations about my supposed mental incompetence? I picked up my purse. I'm 72, Melissa, not stupid. And certainly not old-fashioned enough to let my own daughter rob me. You went through my emails, she shouted. That's a violation of my privacy. The nerve almost made me laugh. And you were planning to declare me mentally unfit to steal my home, I said. I'd say we're even. Amanda cleared her throat. Perhaps we should reschedule once everyone cools down. There won't be a reschedule, I said. Ms. Amanda, I appreciate your time, but your services are no longer needed. I turned toward the door. Melissa grabbed my arm. You're making a huge mistake, she hissed. When you're alone and can't care for yourself, don't come crying to me. I looked at her hand, then at her face. Melissa, I'd rather die alone in my home than spend a single day under your care. I walked out and didn't look back, but I wasn't finished. Not even close. The real work began that weekend. Saturday morning, I met Susan again, this time with a notary present. Are you absolutely sure? She asked one last time. Once these papers are signed, there's no undoing it. I've never been more certain of anything, I said. I signed the deed transfer. My house, all $875,000 worth of it, was no longer mine. It now belonged to the Riverside Women's Shelter. The agreement was simple. I could live there as long as I wished. When I moved out or passed away, the property would be sold and every dollar would go to the shelter. Melissa would receive nothing. She may contest this, Susan warned. Let her, I said. I signed my new will next, leaving Melissa exactly $1 and a letter explaining why. Everything else went to 3 charities and 2 cousins who had actually stayed in touch. Then came the part that made me feel both guilty and thrilled. I was moving. I found a beautiful apartment in Portland, Oregon, 3 states away. A friend from my library volunteer group had moved there 2 years earlier. When I explained everything, she helped me find a place within a week. A bright 2-bedroom apartment with a balcony overlooking the river. A building full of active seniors who organized book clubs and hiking trips. When do you want to list the house? The shelter's property manager asked. Not yet, I said. Give me 2 weeks to finish moving. After that, it's yours. Those 2 weeks passed in a blur. I hired movers paid in cash. People Melissa didn't know. They arrived on a Tuesday while she was at work and packed 43 years of memories in 8 hours. I kept my phone off. I wanted silence. My neighbor Frank watched from his porch. He'd known me since the 80s, attended Robert's funeral, watched Melissa grow up. Everything okay, Patty? He asked. Everything's perfect, I said. I'm going on an adventure. What should I tell your daughter when she comes looking? Tell her the truth, I said. Tell her I'm gone. I left early Thursday morning driving my old Honda Civic. My cat, Whiskers, meowed from his carrier in the passenger seat. I didn't leave a goodbye, just the house keys on the kitchen counter, along with a copy of the deed and a short note. The house is no longer mine to sell. Good luck with your business. I drove for 3 days, stopping at roadside motels, eating in diners, feeling lighter, with every mile I put between myself and that life. I never told Melissa where I was going, but I knew she'd figure it out eventually. I'd been in Portland for exactly 3 weeks when she finally managed to track down my new number. I still don't know how, probably called every relative until someone gave in. It was a Tuesday evening. I was sitting on my balcony with a cup of tea, watching the sun sink into the river below when my phone rang. Her name flashed on the screen. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Hello, Mom. She was screaming so loudly I had to pull the phone away from my ear. What the hell did you do? Where are you? Why is there a charity sign on our house? Not your house, Melissa, I said calmly. It never was. You donated it? Donated it? Are you insane? That was my inheritance, my future? Your inheritance is $1, I replied. Check your mail. My updated will should be arriving any day now. The silence afterward was so complete, I thought she'd hung up. You can't do this, she finally said. I'll contest it. I'll hire a lawyer. I already have one, a very good one, I said, and I'm fully mentally competent, in case you're wondering. Sharp as a tack, according to my doctor. I had him document it, just in case you tried pulling that incompetency stunt you and Brandon discussed. I could hear her breathing on the other end, heavy, furious. This is because I asked you to sell so I could start a business, she snapped. What kind of mother punishes her daughter for asking for help? The kind whose daughter tried to have her declared incompetent and dumped in a cheap nursing home, I answered evenly. I read the emails, Melissa, the texts, all of it. You had no right. And you had no right to plan my entire future without my consent, I said. But here we are. Another long pause. When she spoke again, her voice had shifted softer, measured. Mom, maybe we got off on the wrong foot. I pushed too hard. Why don't I come visit you, wherever you are? We can talk. I'm sure we can work something out. There it was. She still thought she could manipulate me. Still believed that if she showed up, turned on the tears, played the devoted daughter, I'd give in. I'm not telling you where I am, I said. Come on, Mom. I'm your only child. You can't just cut me off completely. Watch me. Fine, she snapped, the rage returning. Stay hidden in whatever hole you crawled into. But you're gonna get old. You'll get sick. And when you're lying alone in a hospital bed with no one visiting you, no one taking care of you, you'll regret this. You'll die alone. I took a sip of tea. Watched a boat drift lazily down the river. Melissa, I said, I'd rather die alone and free than live even one day as your prisoner. Goodbye. I hung up. She called 17 times that night. I blocked her number. 2 days later, my cousin Jennifer called. Melissa's asking everyone where you are, she said. She sounds desperate. Let her be, I replied. Don't tell her anything. I won't. But Patty, she's your daughter. I know, I said. That was the hardest part. Life in Portland was peaceful, almost unsettlingly so at first. I'd spent decades being a wife, a mother, a caretaker. I'd nearly forgotten how to just be Patty. But I learned. I joined the book club in my building, became friends with a woman named Dorothy, who taught watercolor painting, started volunteering at the animal shelter every Wednesday. Turns out I loved cats even more than I'd realized. Whiskers certainly approved. My apartment overlooked the river. Every morning, I drank coffee on the balcony, watching joggers and cyclists pass below. No yard work, no gutters, no memories lurking in every corner. Still, I'd be lying if I said I never thought about Melissa. Every unknown number made my heart jump. A part of me hoped she'd truly apologize, not manipulate, not negotiate, but actually take responsibility. That call never came. Instead, Jennifer gave me updates I never asked for. In July, Melissa's business failed. They couldn't secure funding without your house money. That's unfortunate, I said, feeling nothing. In September, she and Brandon are having problems. The stress got to them. Marriage is hard, I replied evenly. In October, she asked about you. Wanted to know if you were okay. I'm fine, I said. Please stop updating her about me. I wasn't being cruel. I just needed distance, space, a life that belonged only to me. The shelter kept me informed about the house. They chose not to sell it right away. Instead, they turned it into transitional housing for women escaping abusive situations. Up to 3 families at a time, rent-free, while they rebuilt their lives. Robert would have loved that. I certainly did. You've changed lives, the shelter director told me on the phone. We've already helped 4 families because of you. That mattered more than Melissa's business ever could. By November, I had a rhythm. Monday mornings at the farmer's market, Wednesdays at the animal shelter. Friday night, potlucks in our building. Weekends for whatever struck my mood, hiking, painting, reading, or sitting on the balcony with Whiskers purring in my lap. I was happy. Truly happy. Then, on a cold Tuesday in early December, Jennifer called with urgency in her voice. Patty, I think you should know Melissa found out where you are. My stomach dropped. How? I don't know. Maybe she hired someone. Maybe social media. Did you post any pictures? I thought back. Dorothy had shared a photo of our book club the week before, tagged everyone. The building name was visible. Damn it, I whispered. She's talking about driving out there, Jennifer said, saying you need to face reality, that she deserves to see you. When? Soon. I'm sorry, I tried to stop her. It's not your fault, I said. Thank you for warning me. After hanging up, I sat very still. Then I smiled. If Melissa wanted to see me, she could. I'd be ready. She arrived the following Saturday morning, exactly 1 week later. I was ready. I hadn't been hiding or running. I'd been preparing. I invited 2 witnesses, my lawyer, Susan, who flew in, and Dorothy Sharp as a tack and happy to help. And I'd done one more thing Melissa would never expect. I was sitting in my living room when the buzzer rang. Dorothy answered. Yes, I'm here to see Patricia Peterson. Melissa's voice came through, tight and controlled. I'm her daughter. Come on up, Dorothy said. 4th floor, apartment 4C. Moments later, there was a knock. Dorothy opened the door. Melissa stood there with 2 large boxes and a rolling suitcase. She looked thinner, older. New lines framed her mouth. When she saw me in my armchair, her expression flickered anger mixed with something that might have been relief. Mom. Melissa. She noticed Susan on the couch, notepad in hand. Dorothy by the kitchen. Are you seriously having witnesses for this? Come in or don't. I said calmly, but if you're staying, put your boxes down. You're blocking the doorway. She dragged them inside, breathing hard. I drove 14 hours to get here. You couldn't even give me your address. I had to track you down like a criminal. You tracked me like prey, I corrected. There's a difference. Oh, don't be dramatic. She scanned my apartment. So this is where you've been hiding. It's so small. It's perfect. She turned to me. Okay, you made your point. You were mad about the house. But this has gone on long enough. I'm here now. Let's fix this. Fix what exactly? Fix us. Fix this family. You can't abandon your only child over one disagreement. One disagreement, I repeated. I stood slowly. Melissa, you tried to steal my house. You planned to declare me incompetent. You were going to lock me in a nursing home and take everything I worked for. That's not. I wasn't. She stopped, seeing denial wouldn't work. Okay, maybe I went too far, she said quickly. But it wasn't malicious. I just needed help. You have so much. I have so little. You have little because you spend everything you earn, I replied. That's not my emergency. She switched tactics. Tears welled up. Fine, I messed up. I'm sorry, but I'm still your daughter. Family forgives. I looked at her standing there with her boxes, her suitcase, her plans. You're right, I said. You are my daughter. Which is why I'm giving you exactly what you deserve. Her face lit up. She smiled. Thank you, Mom. I knew you'd $1, I interrupted. Her smile vanished. What? You'll inherit $1. It's already in my will, signed and notarized. Susan has copies. You can't be serious. I am. The rest goes to charities and cousins who actually remember my birthday, I continued. And the house you wanted? It's housing abuse survivors, 4 families so far. Real people. Real need. I looked at her boxes. You drove 14 hours without being invited. You came with luggage. That means you planned to move in without asking. Am I wrong? She didn't answer. Those boxes go back in your car, I said firmly. You're not staying. You're not welcome here. And before you threaten me with loneliness, I added, I have friends. I have community. I have a life. And it's better than anything I had before. I'm your daughter, she whispered. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Then act like it, I said quietly. Daughters don't steal from their mothers. Susan stood and held out a document. This is unnecessary, Melissa scoffed. She should see it, I said. Susan handed her the paper. A restraining order prepared but not filed. If you contact me again without permission, this gets filed, I said. If you show up uninvited, it gets filed. If you harass anyone for information about me, it gets filed. Her hands trembled. You'd really do this to your own daughter? You tried to destroy your own mother for money, I replied. So yes, I would. She grabbed her boxes and left angry, crying, furious. Maybe the tears were real. Maybe not. At the door, she turned back. You'll regret this. The only thing I regret, I said, is not doing it sooner. She left. The door closed. Dorothy sat beside me and placed a hand on my shoulder. Susan packed up her papers. Whiskers jumped into my lap, purring. Are you okay? Dorothy asked. I looked around my small, perfect apartment, my friends, my cat, my freedom. Yeah, I said. I really am. And for the first time in a very long time, I meant it.